allow yourself, the presence of awareness, to come back to yourself. Just allow your attention to sink back and rest in yourself. Okay, and now open your eyes again and give your attention to the content of our conversation and this room. And you may feel that the experience of being aware is obscured or overlooked because you are now directing your attention away from yourself towards our conversation and the sight of this room. So now, with your eyes open this time, go back to yourself. Go back to the simple fact of being aware. But this time with your eyes open. And now, without losing sight, or without losing touch with the fact of being aware, carry on this conversation. So previously it was either the fact of being aware or it was your objective experience. And what I'm trying to encourage you to do is to remain in touch with yourself in the midst of objective experience, such as the experience you are now having, rather than having to retreat from experience in order to access yourself. It's natural to begin with that we have to turn away. For one whose mind is accustomed to focusing exclusively on the content of experience, it is natural to begin with that we have to turn away from the content in order to come back to ourself, the fact of being aware. But that's only to begin with. In time, we can go back to experience without losing touch with ourself.
But experience objects become blurred, a little remote, if I open eyes to keep that awareness.
No, objects don't become more remote. Our conversation is not more remote from you now as you remain in touch with the fact of being aware. Our conversation is in exactly the same place in your experience as it was before. It's just that it's no longer veiling your being.
I just barely feel that kind of awareness there. If I make a little effort stay, just I have to blur a little bit. Things.
Okay. So maybe to begin with, for some time you will have to turn away, close your eyes, turn away from the objects of experience in order to go back to the fact of being aware. And then you may notice that when you open your eyes, the fact of being aware is obscured by experience. It's difficult to maintain the two, in which case you close your eyes, go back to the fact of being aware, open your eyes. Being aware is veiled by thoughts and perceptions. So if you need to go back and forth until in time you begin to be able to stay in touch with the fact of being aware when your eyes are open, not just when they're closed. So now you no longer have to turn away from experience in order to access your being. You can remain in touch with your being and also engage in experience. So there's this feeling that we used to have of going backwards and forwards begins to get blurred. There's less and less backwards and forwards until our experience shines with the light of our being. And then there's no longer two things to go back and forth between.
If I keep looking at the movie, at the same time I see the screen. So That's what you're suggesting.
Okay, yes, but I'm going to refine your formulation. It's not that you stop looking at the movie and you start looking at the screen. You are the screen of awareness upon which the movie of experience is playing. So you can't look at the screen of awareness in the same way that you can look at the movie. You can only be knowingly the screen of awareness. You can't turn around and look at it any more than you can look at your eyes now. So it's just a refinement of your formulation. That this morning you said, when you were listening to the conversation, you said, what phrase did you use? You said, I
had a comment in my mind.
You heard a comment. You suddenly noticed that you are that which is knowing the conversation. At that moment, you had gone back to yourself. You had disentangled yourself from the conversation in which you were previously involved. And you came back to yourself. In fact, you didn't come back to yourself. You are always yourself. But previously, you had lost yourself in the conversation. And then in that moment, you ceased losing yourself in the conversation. And you realized, oh, I am the knower of the conversation.
If my knowing is abiding there,
so all that remains now is to become accustomed to being the knower of your experience. Whatever is taking place, you are the knowing of it. And whatever you are knowing, whatever you are experiencing, doesn't really affect, in fact, it doesn't in any way affect that which knows it, yourself. So you are the screen of awareness upon which experience the drama of experience is playing. So you overlook yourself and give your attention. This is a magical screen, remember. It's a screen that has the ability to watch the movie that is playing on it. It's not like a screen that is being watched from a sofa. The screen itself is watching the movie that is playing on it. So you, the screen of awareness, are watching the movie of experience, losing yourself in it, and then remembering yourself or returning to yourself. I am that which knows the movie. Then, through force of habit, you may lose yourself in experience again. You come back to yourself. But in time, you will acquire the ability to experience the movie without losing touch with yourself. Or in other words, the movie will begin to cease having the capacity to veil your knowing of yourself. All that's necessary is to see yourself clearly, to know thyself clearly. You know yourself unclearly now. You're always referring, I this, I think, I feel, I see, I always. But I know that you also know yourself, but what your sense of yourself is still mixed up with your thoughts and feelings. What is your bare self, your naked self, prior to experience? The I am, before I am a woman, before I am a person, before I am tired, before I am hungry, before I am uncertain, before I am doubtful, before I am thinking, what is just the I am that you are prior to all of that?
I can't define.
No, of course you can't define it. But what's important is that you recognize yourself as that. I can't define it either. But the very best we can say about it is I. Because I is the name we commonly give to our innermost being or our innermost self. We've been calling ourselves I all our life. Well, having recognized the nature of yourself, you know that you are imperturbable. You are intimately one with everything that takes place in experience, but you are not disturbed by anything that takes place in experience. In other words, your nature is peace. That's the most important thing. If you just lived your life in accordance with that understanding, that would be enough. But the nature yourself is also whole. There are no parts or divisions in yourself. You are not fragmented. Therefore, there is no sense of being incomplete. In other words, you are inherently fulfilled. The common name for that is happiness. So you don't seek happiness in objects.
I wanted to come back to some lady a few days ago talked about the awareness. It's hard to not to imagine that the awareness is in the head. And although I don't feel it to be in the head, I feel it more as a space. But there's still this doubt that it's located in the head. It's a small doubt. Yes. And my rationale is, when you were speaking to this woman, I was like thinking to myself, if I cut my nail, I'm still aware. If I cut my hand, my arm, I'm still aware. But if I take a sword and sever my head, then where's the awareness? I know I can't experience this myself, but I'm pretty sure that I won't be here to know awareness. And there's another question attached to this is, when I do the inquiry, when I ask myself, or when you ask the question, am I aware? Obviously I am, there's no doubt about this. But I'm also questioning, there's no doubt because I understand your question. If I take away all the senses one by one, till there is no senses, no thoughts, no nothing, then I'm not sure that I'll be aware. I've probably not experienced this, and I'm wondering, is that what's called nirvikalpa samadhi, or?
Yes, nirvikalpa samadhi is awareness's knowledge of itself in the absence of objects. But just going back to the first part of your question about cutting your head off and awareness coming abruptly to an end. Imagine that you dream that you are in a room somewhere, or having a conversation, and just through the strange turn of events in the dream, you end up having your head cut off. And the moment your head is cut off, you wake up. So where did the awareness inside the dreamed character's head go when his head was cut off? The dreamed character was aware of his experience in the room, yes. When he closed his eyes, his awareness of the room disappeared. When he opened his eyes, the room reappeared again, and therefore the dreamed character presumed that the awareness with which he was aware of the room was located just behind his eyes, in his head or in his brain. That's why most people consider their awareness is in their brain, for exactly this reason. So the dreamed character feels that his awareness is in his brain. Like you, he reasons, if I cut my nails, my awareness doesn't disappear. If I cut off my hand, my awareness doesn't disappear. But if I cut off my head, or if my head is cut off, awareness does come abruptly to an end. It's true that when you cut your nails in the dream, you don't wake up. When you cut off your hand in the dream, you don't wake up. But when your head is cut off in the dream, you do wake up. Now, what happened to the awareness that seemed to be located in the dreamed character's brain? Where did it go? Did it come to an end?
It went nowhere.
It went nowhere, because it was not located in the time and space that seemed to be real from the perspective of the dreamed character. Now, it's exactly the same in the waking state. When we close our eyes, our awareness of the world disappears. When we open our eyes, our awareness of the world appears, and we therefore reason from this that whatever it is that is perceiving the world must live just behind our eyes, located in the brain. So in other words, we believe and feel that awareness is located in time and space, at a particular point, at a particular time, in this vast world all around it. That awareness is this fleeting, fragile phenomenon located somewhere in the brain. But in exactly the same way, just as the dreamed character thinks the same, but in exactly the same way that the awareness with which the dreamed character is aware of the dreamed world is not located anywhere in the dreamed world, or in the time that seems to be real from the perspective of the dreamed character. Likewise, the awareness with which each of us is currently aware of our experience is not located anywhere in the time and space that seem to be real from the perspective of our finite minds. And this morning's meditation was an attempt to demonstrate that, not in a rational way, but in an experiential way. In other words, it was an attempt to show that what I've just suggested, that is, that the awareness with which each of us is aware of our experience is not located in time and space, is not just a highfalutin metaphysical idea. It is actually consistent with the facts of our experience. That's what I was trying to demonstrate this morning.
Yes, and I do get a sense of that.
Okay, yeah.
My question is about I am and I am that. Because when I ask the question, am I aware, or who is aware, I go to the experience, I'm very aware. I mean, it seems there is some sort of disconnect between my experience. I really am aware. And I have a sense of, transparency, of emptiness, of my body, of peace, of silence. But instead of saying, this is who I am, I would say I am that. There is a subtle, it feels like a subtle distance. This awareness that seems very present, and the fact that I recognize that this is I.
Yes, but the phrase, I am that, it's one of these Mahavakyas in the Vedantic tradition, but it is not yet the highest teaching. Because in this phrase, I am that, there is I and that. It is the finest recognition one can have whilst still in the realm of duality. But to say I am is or to say I am aware is a higher understanding than saying I am that. It's because when we say I am or I am aware, what we're really saying is I am I, not I am that, but I am I. Remember Popeye, I am what I am and that's all that I am. Popeye was even higher than these Vedantic masters.
It seems that somehow I'm still in that kind of a little in between where there is still that duality between this awareness.
Just take the thought I now and tell us about it.
Well, silence comes.
First of all, how far from yourself do you have to go to access I?
There's no distance.
Is there any,
like an opening when you said that.
Is there any distance between the I that you are and the I that knows that you are? Or is it you that knows that you are? It's the same you. Yes? I know that I am. The I that I am is the same I that knows that I am. Yes? In other words, your being is self-aware. It is not, when you say I am that, you say, what you are saying is that my being is identical to that. Your being is not identical to anything other than itself. I am I. Ramana Maharshi used to just say I. That's what he meant. I am only I. I am identical to nothing other than myself. That is your experience. The only thing in your experience that is identical to yourself, that means the same as yourself, is yourself. Nothing else is identical to you. You are all alone. Pristine. You know that the being of everyone, or other, that all the people and objects that exist in your experience derive their being from the same being as you. In other words, you feel your identity, your shared identity, or your shared being with all people and all animals and all things. And you do your best to live a life that is consistent with that feeling, understanding.
Let's imagine that there is only one piece of cake left. And my tendency would be, I want it. But there is someone else there. And
what I would suggest is this. You have a piece of cake and there's somebody on the other side of the table who you fear may want the piece of cake as well. So you cut the piece of cake in half, but you don't cut it in half. You cut it unevenly, so it's a third and 2/3. And then you say to your friend, help yourself.
thank you.
In that way, you get what you want without contradicting your deepest love and understanding.